Welcome back, guys. So if you haven't seen Booktok drama, Booktube drama, all of that, it is about Kallmekris. She had posted a 36-minute video basically trashing the romance genre, specifically the dark romance genre. I'm not going to go specifically into what books she was covering because her opinions on those books are fine. Look, you don't like those books? Totally valid. You want to have opinions on that? Cool. It was more so the fact that, first of all, she changed her title 9 times before unlisting the video. Her lack of apology, which was posted to TikTok. I really don't want to give her like views, so we're just gonna have a discussion. If you saw it, you saw it. If not, fine, whatever, it doesn't matter. But here's the thing, right? She's talking about how dark romance readers need help and need to touch grass, need to get therapy, and that is in fact very harmful. Many of us who are SA survivors read dark romance because it feels healing to us, right? There are trigger warnings, and that is absolutely okay. If you cannot read something that has those things, don't read it. It's as simple as that. That's kind of like the basis I want to go over with that. The other part that she was insinuating, well, she said it herself, that some of these covers, some of these romance covers, because they have cartoon-ish vibes, are like children's books, and that's not true. First of all, we can have a whole deep discussion on covers, and I actually want to get there at some point. It probably won't be today, but cover art is expensive, okay? And certain people have certain vibes. All right, please don't use AI if you're an author, okay? Just don't go that route. Hire a cover artist or use Canva. Canva's not perfect, but you can use Canva. And yes, I know Canva has AI. Please avoid that. So making that clear. But just because it has a cartoon cover doesn't mean it's necessarily for children, right? There are reasons that there are genres. Now, yes, unfortunately, I've heard stories of people finding books in the wrong spot. If you find a romance book in a children's area, which shouldn't happen because booksellers should know better, let them know. They'll move it, right? But it's also our due diligence as parents, right, or consumers, especially when you're buying for children, to look at the book, look at what genre it's based on, look at the blurb, right? I'm a parent myself, I'm an educator. Look at the blurb. If I'm not sure of a book, right, especially for me, if I'm consuming it, it's not a big deal, but for my child, that's a whole other ballgame, right? I will look at reviews. I will look at the blurb. Is he going to like this, right? And I think that's really important, and that goes for not just books, but all types of media, music. Sorry, my cat was looking at me. Movies, etc. Like, it is our job to do that. Now, have I watched things as a child that were probably not appropriate for me? 1000%. Growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, I think our parents just kind of, I don't think they meant harm, but there were a lot of shows that I watched as a kid that were probably not age appropriate, okay? And I want to say that had my parents had more discussions on things, it could have been better, right? There was a show called Higher Ground, for example, and it was a Canadian-based show. It was It was a troubled teen. I hate to say it was a troubled teen based show where these kids go to get help, therapy outside. Now I'm looking back and I'm like, holy shit, like, okay, yeah, they got lucky on some things, but like the premise, there was just some it was more based off teenage, right? And I was young. I was maybe 12 or 13 beginning to watch the show. It was meant for like high school and older. But I will say that there were some very real issues addressed in the show that I think our parents could have, you know, especially my parents could have had a deep discussion on, right? Drug use, alcohol, eating disorders, things like that. I think that's very real, very valid things that happen in the world, and have those discussions. Don't be afraid to do that. You know, just because it's Disney doesn't also mean that you shouldn't be having discussions, right? I want to make that clear. I've used Disney to create a curriculum, and we have discussions on harmful material, right? For example, hear me out, Zootopia covers racism, right? Zootopia covers bigotry. Those are discussions you should be having with your children, right? All right, that being said, it was kind of like a basis. Now, Kallmekris did do like her apology, lack thereof. She was saying that she poked fun at and it was just a joke. I am tired of people hiding behind comedy and satire when they're doing harm. There was a lot of misogyny in her video, but also her hiding behind also being a trauma survivor and saying, you know, seek therapy. Look, as a reader, as someone who likes dark romance, and I don't read it all the time, there are times where I can read it. There are times where I don't have an issue reading it. I'm not going to hate on those that don't have the issue, right? I think that's the thing is like, we see this often, not just in the romance genre, but specifically the dark romance readers and authors. They get shit on all the time, right? Oh, it's a smut addiction, right? Oh, you guys are like weird and stuff. Like, it's a choice to read it or not. We're not telling you what to read or when to read. If you want to read it, go read it. That's fine. If you can't handle it, that's okay too. We're not upset. There are trigger warning lists for a reason, right? Now, one of the books she did mention was Icebreaker, and she was comparing the cover to children's, and that's what I was specifying. But even when you open the cover of the book, on that first page, it says, this is for adult content only. So when you're picking up a book, you know, even if you're getting an ebook, even if you're getting an audiobook, there are very real ways to look at how you consume the media, what you're getting into. Now, like I said, I'm one of those people, I see a cover, I don't care, I'll grab it, right? But I'm at that point where I'm not really triggered, right? Sometimes, yeah, unfortunately, I'll DNF a book, right? And that's okay, that's valid. But I'm not going to go hate on the book. I'm not going to go hate on the author. Sometimes a book is just not for me. That doesn't make the book less valid. She also had brought up 50 Shades of Grey, which, first of all, nobody is talking about on Booktok. And for her to say that, oh, this was the beginning of the romance genre, is completely inaccurate. In fact, the romance genre has been I can't speak, has been around a long time. So much so that, hold on guys. That they started around the 18th century, the beginning of the 18th century. So again, nothing new, right? Women were put in not penitentiaries, insane asylums for not just reading, but reading romance, right? So this again is not new, hating on romance, right? And again, we can have the valid discussion of individual books and how they're harmful. We can have valid opinions on, you know, whether you like a book or not and why. That's cool. That's not our issue here. It's when you put the generalization as a whole and telling people to go get therapy and touch grass and stuff, that shit is not funny. Especially from a fellow trauma survivor. People have different ways of healing. I also want to note, as the last thing before I say goodbyes to this video, is that on TikTok, right, because she was saying that this kept coming up on her TikTok, which TikTok will be no more, I know. Okay, anyway, you build your FYP brick by brick. So if you're seeing things like Icebreaker, and you're getting sports romances, maybe because you like sports, maybe because you like books, and the algorithm is telling you maybe you'll enjoy these books. If you're getting book recommendations like Birthday Girl and Crescendence by Douglas, sorry, I almost said Penelope Cruz, by Penelope Douglas, maybe it's because your algorithm is telling you you'll like it because you're liking content similar to. Because I will tell you, well, yeah, sometimes Icebreaker will pop up on my FYP, and I know Penelope Douglas's books will pop up on my FYP. I get far more different books popping up. I get black romance. I get historical romance. I get YA, you know, a little bit of nonfiction. I get diverse authors, you know, indigenous, Asian, etc. I'm in all sorts of places. So no, these aren't the only books that are popping up. And I can also choose whether I want to read this book or not. There are in fact books that constantly pop up on my FYP from problematic authors, unfortunately. And you know what I do? I just scroll. Same thing with threads. Nope, I'm not going to engage. Because I don't want my algorithm to say, hey, this book is for you. Especially when it's a problematic author, right? And so I think that alone was like, hello. But also all of her authors were white women, right? You have no diversity in there. You have no men. There very much are black authors that write dark romance. There's Asian authors that write dark romance. There, you know, etc. Right? There are men that write romance. Like, hello. So it was just giving a lot of misogyny on that. You know, and I think like her introduction to Booktok, it wasn't that. It's not that we can't be welcoming, it's that we're tired of having these discussions when it's not the first time. It was very rage baity. We know that she was losing views and she did this for that, right? And then her apology was nothing. Anyway, I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'm going to continue posting here as my main source, but again, you can follow me everywhere else under the same name, so I'll see you guys later.